So we will pay homage to the Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Before we start the second jhana, we also have to explain the masteries. As we have explained many things about the first jhana, we have already explained the jhana factors, also removing hindrances, and also the quality of the jhanas. So we have a few reminding here. In the very beginning, the beginners who attain the jhana for the first time should enter the jhana more and also review jhana factors less. So from time to time, there are some meditators. They wish to review more. If we review more, that means we just know the jhana factors more and more. We cannot know the nimitta most of the time. Then we can experience some little bit difficulties here. Anyway, in the very beginning, for the beginners, we should enter the jhana more and also review jhana factors less. This is the reminding we have to know. Then again, we also have the special suttas mention something about masteries. This from Anguttara Nikaya, Navaka Nipata, page 216. We call Gawi Sutta. In the current versions in Myanmar, it's also called Gawi Upama Sutta. So I just pinpoint some part of Gawi Sutta. In the slides, there's a slide. In the Gawi Sutta, it mentions we have to know how to sustain the jhanas first. Okay. So first we have to try to know the suitable foods, suitable friends, dwellings, and posture at the time of attainment. So we also have to know all these things. For example, when I attain jhana, I have eaten this kind of foods, and I have this kind of friends, this kind of residence, this kind of living place, and this posture, also having this kind of conversation, and so forth. Then when we get lost, we have to recapture all the suitable situations to renew the jhana. This is the way we have to sustain the jhana. Then one more thing here, we have to know the prerequisites of jhana. So whenever we are going to re-enter jhana or before we attain jhana, we must have these prerequisites. The first one is to suppress the lust by reviewing the danger in sense desire and so forth. Then we have to know the one, what is it really called? Danger in sense desire. Actually, in Buddha's teaching, the Buddha explained many different similes of danger. I think many people have known this one, especially when we read something about renunciation. Even in Buddha's renunciation, it will mention something about the danger of sensual desire. So one of these simile is like the Abhasara Kama in Pali, we call that one. We have a less enjoyable things, more suffering. This is the one of the is a simile. So in our daily life, we have to suffer a lot to enjoy something. For example, when we are going to do some festival or some picnicking or for party or something like that, then we have to prepare a very long time. But at the time, actual time of enjoyment is really, really very little. Although we have to prepare for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, but actual time will be only a few hours. So that means more danger, more suffering, less enjoyment. Not only that, the Buddha also said, like the poisonous fruits. So it's really, some poisonous fruits are very beautiful. It look nice, but when we eat, it's really poisonous. We can die within a few minutes or a few seconds. Similarly, the sensual pleasure are like poisonous fruits. If we enjoy it, then we are poisoned. So this is one thing we have to know about sensual pleasure. So that means we have to review the danger in sensual desire. Actually, not only that, there are also many other things we have to know. Especially when we are going to talk about sensual pleasure, we also have to talk about like a risky journey, like a risky journey. So we can have any difficulties in any situations. All the sensual desire, all the sensual pleasure are like a risky journey, very, very risky. Okay, now another one is two is tranquilizing the bodily irritability by tranquilizing the body. So that means if our body and mind are tranquilized, we can enter into jhana easily. If we cannot tranquilize, we cannot enter into jhana easily. So in the very beginning, we also have to tranquilize by reviewing, right? Like some discourses, as we have mentioned about how to develop tranquility, right? We also have already learned how to develop the tranquility. So anyway, in the very beginning, we have to tranquilize ourselves. If we can tranquilize well, then we can continue our practice. Anyway, so the next one, removing sloth and torpor by bringing to the initial mental effort and so forth. So here in this case, we just talk about initial mental efforts. But in reality, there are many, many other things that we have to know. For example, we may talk about initial efforts. Here I just say initial efforts. But in reality, we have many, many other types of efforts. For example, in the very beginning, before encountering difficulty, we are diligent. But when we encounter difficulty, our mental power, our mind power become weaker. Similarly, when we have the sustained efforts or initial efforts, when we have difficulty, we will continue practicing. So anyway, the main thing is when we have a lot of hatred, then we're going to tranquilize our minds. Then when we have a lot of sloth and torpor, sure, we will not have efforts. That is why we also need initial efforts. We also have sustained efforts when encountering difficulty. Not only that, then we also need to develop Viriya Sampajanga, as we have mentioned before. Then There are many other things to overcome sloth and trouble. For example, by reviewing like Kasina, or by emphasizing focusing on the lights and so forth. When we have very bright lights, we cannot feel drowsy. We cannot fall asleep mostly. So when we have this kind of perceptions of the light or something like that, we can overcome sloth and trouble. By removing or overcoming sloth and trouble, we can also continue our practice. This is also important for us. Then 4, abolish restlessness and remorse by bringing to the sign of serenity. So here in this case, we have to incline our minds to the nimitta. So when we want our mind to incline to the nimitta, bring our mind to the nimitta or direct our mind to the nimitta again and again, then we can develop concentrations. We can also overcome restlessness and remorse. So then we have the last one is Vijikiccha. So anyway, when we talk about Vijikiccha, purifying minds and other states that obstructs concentration, skepticism, infatuation, pride, and so forth. So which means when we have a lot of doubts about nimitta and attainment, we cannot improve ourselves. That's why we also need to overcome skepticism or doubt. And not only the infatuations or prides. Okay, here we can talk about mada and mana. Actually, when we talk about mada, this means like a kind of craziness. When we are proud or when we are arrogant, like we are like crazy men. Similarly, pride also, we are proud of our ability too much. This is also like crazy men. That's why we have to overcome this kind of things to purify our minds. This also can be an obstruction to concentrations. So anyway, in the very beginning, we have already talked about the 5 things as number, subtracts last by reviewing danger and sense of desire. Then 2, tranquilize the body irritability. This means we can just like a bhyapada, ill will. Also, not only bodily irritability, we also can say bhyapada, ill will, by tranquilizing the body. That means we can develop the enlightenment factor of passaddhi, tranquility. Then 3, remove sloth and trouble by bringing to the initial mental effort and so forth. Not only that, we can also do reviewing the light Kasina or the light, the brightness, and so forth. So 4, abolish restlessness and remorse by bringing to the signs of serenity. This means sign of concentrations, nimitta. So the last one is purity of minds of other states that obstruct concentrations. So before we are going to practice, we have to do these 5 things first, in order that we may be able to maintain jhana longer. Then we also have some questions from meditators. Can we expand Anapana Nimitta, right? So it doesn't mention to expand Anapana Nimitta. Actually, we must not expand Anapana Nimitta. But for about 10 Kasina, we have to expand little by little. So the Kasina Visuddhimagga Nimitta should be expanded when attaining asset concentrations and absorption concentrations, as we have explained before. When we can attain Patibhaga Nimitta, we can attain asset concentrations and absorption concentration. So when we are very bright, here, Visuddhimagga, it will be confusing for the meditators. At the time of Patibhaga Nimitta, there's no color, no, right? It mentioned like that. no color, no shape, no form. But it mentioned also in Pratipaka Nimitta is, you may remember the one. Pratipaka Nimitta is like a sun disk. So sun disks, or like a moon disk. Also mention the shape. Also mention the color, reddish brown color, like a one dawn rice. So that means when we talk about Pratipaka Nimitta, it mentioned two different things. In the very beginning, when we talk about Nimitta, it mentioned the shape and the color. Later, it also mentioned there's no shape, no color. Which one should we accept? In reality, in the very beginning, it also mentioned we must not pay attention to the color or shape. This is the main point. If we think about color too much, it will be similar to color Kasina. That is why don't think about color too much. We must know the concept earth. It will be easier for us. That is why these two are not contradict, right? So that means when we are focused on the Pratipaka Nimitta, we just have to know the concept earth as Pratipaka Nimitta. Then before we are expanding, now here we have two steps. One, delimit with the mind successive for sign according as required. So that means we have to delimit as, for example, 1 finger breath, 2 finger breath, 3 finger breath, or so forth. Maybe 1 inch, 2 inches, maybe according to modern measurement. Maybe 1 meter, 2 meters, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters. Okay, not a centimeter, maybe meters will be much better, right? So gradually we can expand. After that, too, expand the nimitta as it is delimited. So first we have to delimit. After that, we have to expand it. So from near to far, smaller to bigger, we have to expand gradually. This is the way we have to expand the nimitta. So in the very beginning, I have already talked about jhana and also reminding. We have a little reminding. So after expanding, we have to focus on the nimitta on the center, around the face, or in front of our face. So our focusing points can be smaller. As we have mentioned before, if our focusing points become very big, we may have more thoughts. If too small also, then we cannot focus very well. There, when we talk about the Kasina signs, we also mention how to prepare Kasina, right? We also have already mentioned 1 feet in diameter. So 1 foot in diameter. Now, similarly now, when we are focusing, after expanding, we have to focus on one small area, small point. That means not very small, right? Maybe a lot around, maybe face or something like that. Anyway, so after expanding, keep focus in one place. This is the main point. It should not be very big, it should not be very small also. Then there's also one reminding mentioned in Visuddhimagga. Not only in Visuddhimagga, also mentioned many other sutras, many other parts. That means the beginner should enter the jhana more and review jhana fetters less. This is also really, really very important. So if we review most of the time, we will know only the jhana fetters, we cannot know the nimitta. And we cannot maintain entering jhana very long time. That is why more entering, less reviewing. Then we have to proceed to the next one, Gavi Sutta. We can find in Anguttara Nikaya, Book 9, according to current Tipitaka Pali versions, especially Myanmar version, in page number 216. So they are mentioned, bhikkhus do a foolish count on a rocky mountain who does not know the right feet to pasture, not clever to wander on uneven rocks, it occurs. What if I go where I have not gone before, eat grass I have not eaten before, drink water I have not drank before? Without establishing her forefeet well, she raises her hind feet. She does not go where she has not gone before, does not eat grass, not eaten before, does not drink water, not drunk before. Standing in the place where she was, it would occur to her, what if I go where I have not gone before, eat grass I have not eaten before, drink water I have never drunk before? From that place too, she does not return harmlessly. What's the reason? Because a foolish cow on the rock does not know the right feet to pasture, is not clever to wander on uneven rocks. That is the simile mentioned. So you can imagine there's a cow. It does not know where to go, where to eat, where to drink. Also not very clever in going here and there. Then without family stepping on one place, he will release in the mountain cliffs, very steep mountain cliffs. He will fall into the river, or the water become muddy, also not unclean already. Here it also swines because her legs, its legs also pain or harm, then cannot eat the grass it wish. So similarly now, bhikkhus in the same manner, we have another one. In the same manner, is foolish bhikkhu who does not know the right feet to pasture, not clever to wander on uneven rock, secluding the mind from sensual and material thoughts, with the thoughts and discarded thoughts, with joy and pleasantness, born of seclusions, abide in the first higher jhana state of mind. He does not practice that sign, to blow it, and make it, measure it, to penetrate and see it. That means without masteries, he just practices the first jhana, simply without mastery, without making it skillful, and he was to move to the second jhana. It occurred to him, what if I overcome applying sustaining thoughts, and the bhikkhu enters and dwells in the second jhana, which is accompanied by inertial confidence, unifications of mind, and is without applying and sustaining thoughts, and also is filled with the rapture and happiness born of concentrations. This is how he thought, which means without practicing mastery, he wishes to move to the second jhana. This is his intention. But unfortunately, it mentioned it's not possible for him to overcome applying thoughts and sustaining thoughts. The bhikkhu enters and dwells in the second jhana, which is accompanied by inertial confidence and unifications of minds. It is without applying thoughts and sustaining thoughts, is filled with rapture, happiness, born of concentrations. So this is the thing mentioned in Kawi Sutta. According to Myanmar version, it mentioned Kawi Upama Sutta. Then, as we have already known that when we have good practice, we must try to maintain well. If we cannot maintain well, sure, we will get lost everything. Now, one more thing here. jhana means, this means like removing or eradicating opposition fetters. So that means before we are entering jhana, we must be able to remove the opposition. We have to continue the 5 kinds of masteries. So when we talk about the masteries, then we also have to know that five of them have relationship. Okay, for example, the first one is avajana vasi. Avajana vasi bhava, mastery in adverting. So here, what does it mean adverting? This is actually only one mind moment. We have to advert our minds to the object anytime, anywhere, as long as we wish, without interrupting many life continuance between review and the process. So sometimes we wish to advert our mind avajana vasi bhava. So briefly, here in this case, we also have to know the mental process. Visuddhimagga also mentioned the mental process. For example, he may enter into the first jhana, imagine from it, then he may review jhana fetters. Immediately after reimagine, then he must be able to review without interrupting many bhavankas mind states. So there are necessary bhavanka mind states in reviewing mental process. For example, shaking bhavanka, bhavanga chalana, trembling bhavanka, bhavanga chalana. Also, resting bhavanka, reviewing knowledge. So when somebody has very strong and sharp controlling faculties, then there will be 4 times embodiment mind moment will arise. If we don't have very sharp and strong controlling faculties, then the 5 times mental process will, the embodiment mind moments will arise. So after that, there will be again bhavanga chalana, trembling bhavanga, life continuing, also bhavangupacheda, resting bhavanga in the mental process. Then continues taking another jhana fetters as object, it will arise. So which means we have to be skillful in reviewing jhana fetters, also similar to Pachakanavasi. When our mind can advance into the jhana fetters easily, without any hesitation, without any interruptions, is called avachanavasi. Then we have samabhajanavasi, master in attaining, which means we must be able to enter into jhana anytime, anywhere, as long as we wish. So sometimes we cannot enter immediately as soon as we wish. Then that means we don't have samabhajanavasi. So from time to time, when our mind's power becomes very weak, we cannot enter as we wish. At the time, no samabhajanavasi, no mastery in attaining. In reality here, we should use mastery in entering. We can also use like that. So in this case, when we have many different jhanas, we have to enter systematically. Then, for example, like Venerable Mahamoggallana, he tamed Nandopananda. He can enter very quickly. He can enter into jhana very quickly. Then in this case, we can say this is Samabhajana Vasi. So what about the Buddha, for example? What about the Buddha, right? Buddha was given Dhamma Talk. When he's speaking, there will be some interruptions, there will be some gaps between two words. He will stop for a while, then keep talking, stop for a while, keep talking like that. Even break time in his speech, he can enter into fruition attainment. That's the Buddha's Vasibhava. Then Buddha can enter easily. At the time of the Buddha, there are also some arahats. They can enter into jhana in every house that's when they are going for Pindapada. So anytime, anywhere, in any conditions, as soon as they wish, they must be able to enter. Then, okay, now we have next one, Adhitthana Vasibhava. Mastery in resolving, because it's like a determination. So in this case, we have to determine shorter to longer. So for example, may I be able to enter into the first jhana for 10 minutes, for example? If we can enter successfully at a few more, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and so forth. But in the text, it also mentioned even one finger snap, very short time, maybe a few seconds, maybe within 1 second, 2 seconds, something like that, entering into jhana. So from a short moment to longer moment, if possible, maybe one morning, whole afternoon, whole evening, whole night, whole day, so forth. So as we determine if we can enter, that means we have Adhitthana Vasibhava, mastery in resolving. So that means nobody and nothing can interfere the jhana mental process. Only see your jhana mind moment will arise and perish continuously, a few hours, a few days, and so forth. This is called Adhitthana Vasibhava. Then 4, Utthana Vasibhava. Utthana is mastery in imagine. So it will be similar to Adhitthana. So we must be able to emerge as soon as we wish. Within one finger snaps, we enter and emerge. Entering is Adhitthana, emerging is Utthana. They have a relationship. Determine only maybe a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes. We must be able to enter into it. We must be able to emerge from it. That is called Utthana Vasibhava. So here, Utthana Vasibhava is only emerging within a few moments, maybe a few minutes, a few hours, maybe 1 day, 2 days, and so forth, as we determined before. So if we can enter and emerge as we wish, we have this Vasibhava. So one more thing is, we have the determination before we are going to enter. As we determine if we can enter or emerge, we have Utthana Vasibhava. And finally, we have Paccavakkana Vasibhava, mastery in reviewing. In this case, I have already said this one is similar to the first one, Avajjana Vasibhava. So Avajjana Vasibhava will advance the mind to the jhana fetters. Paccavakkana Vasibhava will review it. They have relationship. Avajjana Vasibhava will advance the mind to the jhana fetters. right? In the first jhana, we have 5 jhana factors. After that, when the process will keep knowing the first jhana, for example, Vitakka, without many interruptions, then he can keep knowing which are the next jhana factors. Without many bhavanga interruptions, he could knowing piti, different mental process. So that means knowing Vitakka, we have mental process. There's also many mental process. To know which are also we have many mental process. Similarly, piti, sukha, ekaggata. To know all these 5 jhana factors, different jhana factors may have different mental process. That means different mental process will take different jhana factors as objects. So if we say again, there must not be many interruptions or bhavanga between the mental process. Vitakka will direct, the Vajrayana, our jhana will direct the mind to know the jhana factors. Review knowledge will review it. Okay, this is masteries. So after reviewing or after attaining all the jhanas or after practicing the masteries, now we have to proceed something about bhavanga. Many people also ask, what's really called bhavanga? Where can we find the source in the bhavanga? So when we study Anguttara Nikaya, we have one discourse. The Bali passage I have mentioned here. Papasara mitan chitan, tanja ko agantukehi ubakilisehi ubakilitan. Anguttara Nikaya, Book of 1, page 9. Bhikkhus, the mind is a bride. It is defined by external definers. So when we talk about agantukehi, agantuka means visitor. Right? Agantuka means visitor, just visit. So many definements will come to our mental process. We will take it or designable, undesirable object as objects, then we may have definements. So when the mind associated with the definements, it becomes impure. It cannot be bright anymore. Now, one more thing here. Can the mind be bright? Actually, the mind cannot be bright because this is invisible. We cannot see it with our eyes. We can know it with our mind. This is actually only metaphor. So the materialities are visible. It's the brightness of heart base and other materialities. That means when our minds become very pure and light, mind produce materiality, the color of mind produce materiality is also bright. It also have fine elements. It also produce new generations. Then the color of new generation is also bright, and so forth. Then there are also heart base. There is brightness or heart base. So when we talk about mind or bhavanga, that means we have to know the brightness of heart base. Our heart is bright at the time. So when we talk about psychic power, it will mention the color of heart base. I think according to the color of hearts, then we can also decide what kind of temperament he has. Right? For example, is like a very red, then it will be like a lustful temperament. Then it will be reddish brown, it will be hateful temperament and so forth. We can guess. Not only that, we can also guess the mind that arises at the time, especially when reading people's minds, we can use this kind of formula. Anyway, the main thing is the color of heart base. The color of heart base become brighter. Then we can know there is brightness of the mind, because mind itself cannot be brighter because it's invisible, no form, no appearance, no shape. Only mind doesn't have a color, right? Only the materiality have color. That's why we have to know the brightness of heart base. Why we have to talk about Bhavanga mind states? Then reviewing jhana fetters. We have to go to the next one. So to know how to discern the mentality, we can get the sources from Anubhara Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 3, Book 3. The Sutta name is the Anubhara Sutta. Now here I mentioned the summary of Anubhara Sutta. So many people talk about the suttas. Actually, many people also argue with Paudoya according to the suttas. Then there are also many people, they have never read the suttas. As Venerable Buddha enter into jhanas, it mentioned all types of jhanas. He enter. After he emerging from the jhanas, he also descends the jhana dhammas. In the original sutta, it mentioned 16 jhana dhammas. He could descend all 16 jhana dhammas one by one, as we have mentioned before. Right? For example, Vitakka, 1 minute process, for the many minute process, Vichara, many minute process, something like that, right? So, okay, now they mentioned jhana fetters. Okay, here I will not talk about jhana fetters anymore because you have already know what is jhana fetters. So, 5 jhana fetters and also 11 altogether. So, it mentioned 10 mental fetters and consciousness. Yeah, I will list out 10. Okay, I will list out all the things. As we have. So the first concept will work or function to know the object. For example, the mind and objects. It will contact mind objects. Then the mind can know the object because of contact. If Pasa cannot contact, the mind cannot know the object. Feeling. So feeling is also, we can feel good and bad, pleasant or unpleasant, when seeing, when knowing or anything. Similarly, perception. We may mark, oh, this is a good, this is a bad, this is a black, blue, something. We may mark. This is called perception. Then volition. This is also like a reinforcing, associated mental fetters to know the objects. Consciousness, just knowing the objects. Desire, as you have known, decisions, energy means viriya, efforts. The mindfulness, equanimity, and intention, attention, manasikara. So these are the factors Venerable Sariputta can descend after emerging from jhana. They also mention he just descend one by one. We call anubhata. So this kind of elements will be useful when we are practicing vipassana. Then a few more things we have to know something about associated mental fetters here. In the sub-commentary of that sutras mentioned, for example, viriya, energy, covers 2 faculties, faith and wisdom. Because this is controlling faculty, viriya is controlling faculties. They are similar. Right? It covers this. Then again, sati, mindfulness. As you have already known, mindfulness is also important when we are meditating. So, mindfulness is also one of the controlling faculties. Then when we have all these things again, there will be 6 pair of, mention, right? There are 6 pair of mental fetters starting from tranquility. That means when you go and study in a Visuddhimagga Sangha, you can find Kaya Pasati, Citta Pasati, tranquility of mental body, and tranquility of consciousness. Kaya Pasati, Citta Pasati. True. This is the first pair. Then we also have Kaya Lahuta, Citta Lahuta, the lightness of mental body and the lightness of consciousness. This is the second pair. Now we also have Kaya Mudita, Citta Mudita, the flexibility of mental body and the consciousness. This is the third pair. Then again, we have Citta Kaya Kamanyata and Citta Kamanyata, widiness of memory and widiness of consciousness. We have next pair. That is Kaya proficiency of mental body and proficiency of consciousness. Then we have the next one. We're going to say the last one. Kayu Chukata, Chitu Chukata. The ready when the static mindfulness arises, these 6 pair of 12 mental fetters also arise at the same time. So this is just simply mentioning according in the commentary, but we can also understand one more thing. According to Lakhanahara, here I didn't write on this one. Okay, anyway, we have to study the one in Niti Pitaka Padesa, one of the Khuddaka Nikaya texts. According to the Niti Pitaka Padesa, we have one Niti, this is called Lakhanahara Niti. Lakhana means the characteristics of ultimate reality. For example, according to that methods, if we say one nama, it also arises associated nama because without mental fetters, they cannot arise. So yeah, in the case of jhana, we may have 34 jhana dhammas, especially mental fetters and consciousness. They will arise together and they will perish together. That is why we have to know them. So that means when we are going to discern jhana fetters or the jhana dhamma, we have to discern all these things. Okay, now we have to proceed to the next one. There are mentions Vata Ramana Parigahita Daya. This is also commentary of the same suttas. Mathematica commentary, book 3, page 60. Oh, sorry. Anyway, so here we have to think about this one. Vata Ramana, what to me base. Aramana means the objects. Parigita Daya, discerning. So because of discerning or by discerning the base and the objects, he could discern all these mental fetters that arise at the time of jhana. So from time to time, people also ask, why in Paudora ask very strange things, Chakam Bhavanga? That means we have to ask meditators to discern base and the objects. Before discerning, reviewing jhanas, jhana fetters, we must discern the base and the objects. So first step, we have to see the base, the brightness of heart materialities. The second steps, we have to see the objects of jhana, that means Pratipaka Nimitta. If we can discern these two at the same time, then we can also discern jhana fetters. So according to that explanations, we ask meditators to check the bhavangas and nimitta in bhavanga do two things at the same time. After that, we can descend jhana factors. So when we are descending jhana factors, we also have to descend one by one in the very beginning. For example, the first time we can descend only Vitakka. Second time we can descend Vitakka, Vichara 2 together. And 3, Vitakka, Vichara 3 together, something like that. So up to 5, one by one. We can add one by one. So when we can descend jhana factors, then we can review jhana factors. This is also one of the masteries. So if we can practice all the masteries, we can proceed practicing the second jhana. So here I have to explain, before entering second jhana, what we have to do. As we have already know many different things about practice. For example, we have to see the weakness of the first jhana. We also have to see the quality of the second jhana. More calmness jhana. So when we are going to enter after practicing masteries, then we have to re-enter into the jhana and imagine from it. Then we can review. This jhana is very close to hindrances. That means this jhana has hindrances as nearest enemies. This is the first thing we have to review. So I have to elaborate a little bit more. In reality, we have already removed hindrances when attaining asset concentrations of the first jhana. But when we cannot maintain well, then nirvana will arise. The hindrances can arise anytime. When hindrances arise, we cannot be in the jhana anymore. This is the first step, so we have to know. The first jhana has hindrances as nearest enemy. Then 2, we also have the very gross jhana factors. For example, Vitakka, inertial application, which are sustainment or sustained application. So we have to apply our mind to the object again and again. Also not that much comfortable. Not only that, we also have to sustain the jhana factors, or that means we have to sustain the objects. These two are gross. Without sustainment, without applications, if we can know the object, it's much better. So that's why we also have to review. Vitakka, Vichara are also gross and very weak jhana factors of the first jhana. Where the next one is the second jhana. Second jhana has more calmness than the first jhana. So we also have to review the quality. After that, without having any attention, without having any attachment to the first jhana, with the attention to enter into the second jhana, we must focus back on the nimitta. We can attain the second jhana. Now, one more thing here we have to know. Vitakka, Vichara will be removed when attaining absorption, the second jhana absorption. So last week, in the question Q&A section, I think one meditator asked me, when Vitakka, Vichara is eradicated, something like that, right? So that means at the time of asset concentrations, hindrances are removed by the first jhana. But for about Vitakka, Vichara, at the time of jhana, in the absorption states, they are removed in the second jhana. So these are the first part we have to know. After that, as usual, we also have to mention something about the practice according to, the statements according to Pali Canon. So we can find this Pali passage in many sutras. Further, with the subsiding or applies and sustains thoughts, the bhikkhus enters and dwells in the second jhana, which is accompanied by internal confidence and unifications of minds. And without applying and sustaining thoughts, is filled with the rapture and happiness born of concentration. He drenches, steeves, saturates, and suffuses his body with rapture and happiness born of concentration, so that there's no part of his entire body which is not suffused by this rapture and happiness. We can find this sentence in every single suttas whenever the Buddha talk about jhana. So here, I think in the slideshow, I also mentioned the Pali words, right? Here I also have to explain a few more things about the Pali. So they mention the quality of jhana, samadhi jhana, piti sukham, which means rapture and happiness born of concentration. So in our previous, in the first jhana, is born of seclusion, you know? These are born of seclusion, but here, born of concentration. These two are different. Again, they also mention something about faith, saddha, and unification. Unification is samadhi. Pali, in Pali, it mentions which is accompanied by internal confidence and unifications of minds, which means in Bali we call ekoti bhavam. Ekoti. That means we also have the stronger faith in the second jhana. Because of stronger faith, we also have stronger concentration. As you know, faith is also one of the controlling faculties. When the faith becomes very strong and powerful, then concentration must be strong and powerful. All other controlling faculties must be strong and powerful. As we have known before, without balancing controlling faculties, we cannot maintain jhana. So what about in the first jhana? In the first jhana also there's a faith, there's a concentration. Why is it here in the second jhana it mentions special, right? Vitakka, vichara is already removed. So in the first jhana, because of vitakka, vichara, or vitakka, vichara make jhana unstable. As you can understand, vitakka you have to apply every day, every moment. Vichara have to sustain as vitakka applies. So in the second jhana, no more applying thoughts, no more sustainment. Piti sukha, ekakata, only 3 jhana factors. That's when there are more stability, stronger concentrations, also stronger faith, stronger confidence. So as you have known in practical practice, whenever we have new experience, we have stronger confidence. Whenever we have improved some things, we have more confidence. This also can be in our daily life. So now in the second jhana, it will be the same. It will make mind clean, pure, without any disturbance. Previously, disturbed mind, vitakka and vichara is not that much bright and pure. But now, without disturbance of vitakka and vichara, it becomes brighter, purer, stronger faith, stronger concentration. So again, when we have already attained the second jhana, they also mention samadhi jhana, piti sukham. Right? In the first jhana, I mentioned samadhi jhana, piti sukham. That means it produced by concentrations. But here, right? Sorry, sorry. In the second jhana, I also mentioned born of concentration. Rapture and happiness born of concentrations. So again here, concentration becomes stronger. That's why Piti Sukha becomes stronger, clearer, and better. But one more thing here, as we have mentioned in the jhana quality in our previous talk, although we have very strong Piti Sukha, very strong rapture, and very strong joy, our mind will not attach to it. This is also called equanimity. It's very blissful, very powerful, very strong rapture, no more attachment to it. This is also one of the quality of jhana here. Then, as I have mentioned before, when Vitakka Vicharas are removed, I have mentioned Vitakka Vicharas are removed at the time of absorption states. So after attaining the second jhana also, we have to practice the masteries I mentioned before. So 5 masteries, we have to practice systematically. If we don't practice masteries, it will be similar to the cow, right? Unclever cow. We cannot eat as we like, we cannot drink as we like, we cannot go here and there as we like. Similarly, now when we cannot practice masteries and just move to, we wish to attain the third jhana, then sure we cannot maintain, we'll get lost. So here, when we get lost means sometimes even nimitta can disappear. We cannot maintain, we cannot nimitta, we cannot sustain everything, we will get lost. So before entering the third jhana, it's compulsory, it's really necessary to practice the 5 masteries. Then we will go to the third jhana. So when we talk about the third jhana, it's also really, really very important. The Pali passage. That means we can find this Pali passage in every single, many suttas, whenever the Buddha talk about jhanas. So again, here we have to know something about quality. Further, with the fading away of rapture, the bhikkhu dwells in equanimity, mindful, and clearly comprehendent, and experiences happiness with the body. Thus, he enters and dwells in the third jhana, of which the noble ones declare. He dwells happily with equanimity and mindfulness. He drenches, steeps, saturates, and suffuses his body with the happiness. And free from rapture, so that there is no part of his entire body which is not suffused by this happiness. So previously it is rapture and happiness. Not only happiness, we can also say only bliss. So in this part, we also have to know many different things about that jhana. Before entering, we also have to review some things. For example, after practicing masteries, we have to enter into the jhana. After emerging from it, after emerging from the second jhana, then we have to review or reflect. This second jhana has Vitakka Vichara, initial application, and sustained application as nearest enemies. That means when we cannot maintain well, there will be Vitakka Vichara. We cannot maintain the second jhana, we will be in the first jhana anytime. So then we also have like a PT, rapture. So if we have PT, this is also unstable because we like something. It also causes excitement. So it also makes mind unstable, also very weak jhana factors. That is why we also have to reflect or review this jhana also has very weak jhana fetters, piti. This is the first part. After that, the second jhana, third jhana. So the third jhana will be karma. That means the third jhana has more calmness and peacefulness. Without having any attachment to the second jhana, with the intention to enter into the third jhana, we can refocus on the nimitta, then we can enter into the third jhana. So as we have mentioned before, they are mentioned in Pali, Pitiyaja Viraga Ubakakoja Viharati Sadho Samajano. Okay, this is the Pali words we have already mentioned. So which means he dwelt in equanimity. So what kind of equanimity it is? So in reality, there are 10 types of equanimity mentioned in this part, but okay, it will be too long for me. I have to divide into next Dhamma talk. Anyway, so now today we have to talk about equanimity. In the third jhana also we have equanimity, but that equanimity is just the medium minds, not following to the happiness. Although the happiness become very calm, very quiet, also very good, very profound. Although we have very good sukha, happiness, we don't have attachment to it. This is called equanimity. Okay, if we say another way, although it's really, really strong happiness, the happiness cannot attract our minds because of the power of equanimity. So mostly we like happiness. All the happiness are attractive for us, attracted to our minds. But now in the case of the jhana, although it's very strong, powerful attachment, so very strong and powerful sukha, happiness, then it cannot destroy the minds. The mind will not follow the equanimity. So here we can also understand sukha, happiness, and the third jhana is a very sublime and the highest happiness, because after that, no more happiness. So one more thing here, by the power of mindfulness and also clear comprehension, our minds, or we don't have attachment to the sukha. This is also one of the reasons. That's why the Buddha praised him. They are mentioned in the slides, right? So they mean the noble ones declare, noble ones declare. That means noble persons declare. He dwells happily with equanimity. That is the statement we mentioned. So that means the noble persons, because the noble person praise them. Then you may have one more question here. When the rapture is removed, right? This is also one of the questions. Actually, rapture is also removed at the moment of attaining absorption. So you have to remember this too. In the third jhana, so in the second jhana, Vitaka Vijara are also removed at the moment of attaining absorption. Now the rapture in the third jhana is also removed at the moment of attaining absorption. Not in the asset concentration. So it will be a little bit different. Okay, now we have to move the fourth jhana. After attaining the third jhana, we also have to practice mastery. If we can practice mastery, then we can also proceed practicing the fourth jhana. So before entering fourth jhana, we also have to review the factors. So after emerging from the third jhana, we have to review the weakness of jhana. For example, this third jhana has rapture as nearest enemies. As we have learned before, when we cannot maintain well, then there will be piti will arise. We will be in the second jhana again. The another one is sukha. Sukha is also gross because of happiness. This also can cause excitement. So sukha is also gross jhana factors. So this jhana has gross jhana, sukha as gross jhana factors. Also weak jhana factors. Then we also have to review the fourth jhana has more calmness, more peacefulness. Without having any attachment to the third jhana, with the intention to enter into the fourth jhana, we can refocus on the nimitta. We can be in the fourth jhana. So in the fourth jhana, I also mentioned here, the Father who is the abandonment of pleasure and pain, and who is the previous person away of joy and grief, and the vehicles enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, which is neither pleasant nor painful, and contains mindfulness fully purified by equanimity. He sits, suffusing his body with a pure, bright mind, so that there is no part of his entire body which is not suffused with a pure, bright mind. We can find this passage in many suttas. Whenever the Buddha talk about fourth jhana, he will mention the same formula. So now we have to talk about the quality of the fourth jhana. Even last week, one questioner asked me, what about jhanubhaka, ubhaka in third jhana and fourth jhana? What will be the difference? So ubhaka in third jhana is, we call jhanubhaka, just equanimous mind. But ubhaka in fourth jhana is ubhaka feeling. Ubhaka feeling means neither happiness nor unhappiness. That kind of feeling is called ubhaka feeling. So when we can attain jhana, we may have ubhaka and ekagata, only one-pointedness, the equanimity and one-pointedness. So here mentions something about the other mental factors. For example, here mentioned for the previous passing away of joy and grief. Here mentioned sukha and somanasa, dukkha, domanasa, all the things, abandoning pleasure and pain, right? That means sukha, dukkha, and domanasa. But the previous finding away joy and grief, also the same here, sukha, and also there's also like a mental pain, right? But anyway, so when here mentioned previous passing away, what does it mean previous passing away? Actually, they are mentioned dukkha, domanasa, and sukha. Dukkha means bodily pain. Domanasa means mental pain or something unpleasant in our mind. Sukha means body pleasant feeling in the body. We can say body comfort or pleasant. So these are subsided or maybe already removed when attaining as a concentrations of the first jhana, the second jhana, and the third jhana. You have to remember this too, this one, right? So that means in the asset concentrations of the first jhana, and the second jhana, and the third jhana, no more bodily pain, no more mental pain. then our mind will not incline to bodily pleasant feeling. It's already removed in the first, second, third jhana. But now, when attaining the asset concentration of the fourth jhana, somanasa is removed. That means mental pleasant feeling is removed. So we can also understand another way. When sukha is removed, that means at the time of asset concentrations, sukha is removed. Okay, so this is the first part we have to explain. Another one is the Pali word Upaka Sati Parisuddhim, the mindfulness purified by equanimity. So when we talk about Upaka Sati Parisuddhim, so we have pure mindfulness, right? It is purified by equanimity. What about mindfulness in other jhana? Actually, this is also good mindfulness, right mindfulness. But here, this one is purified by equanimity, stronger mindfulness. In reality, in this part, I also should explain the quality of jhanas. That means whenever the Buddha talk about insight knowledges, the Buddha will use a quality of minds or mental qualities. So actually, there are many things to explain about the jhana, right? So because of the mind is mindfulness become very pure. Because of equanimity, mindfulness become very pure. It will be very bright. That is why this one is the stronger jhana factors. Okay, now we have already talked about the jhana factors. Sorry, we also have already talked about the fourth jhana. Then after attaining the fourth jhana, we also have to practice masteries. If we can practice masteries, then we can also continue practicing other like vipassana or other things. So one more thing here about Citta Visuddhi, the purifications of the mind. Whenever we talk about Citta Visuddhi, it must be asset concentrations or absorption concentrations. As I have mentioned in my previous Dhamma talk, many times I have already explained, without attaining Patibhaga Nimitta, we cannot attain asset concentrations or absorption concentration. So these are the purifications of the mind. Then actually I have to proceed talking about the quality of the quality of mind before practicing vipassana. It will take time. That's why I have to skip today, right? Anyway, so today we have already finished all the Kasina up to fourth jhana. So by taking all the Kasina as objects, we can attain up to fourth jhana. But one more thing here we have to know, based on all the Kasina, we can also practice immaterial jhana. So that means we have to practice mastery of the fourth jhana. Then we can also continue practicing for immaterial jhanas. So it also really important for us to know this one. Okay, so I will stop here. When we are going to practice vipassana, now we have to train ourselves, especially we have to train our minds until it becomes powerful, and also until our mind become pure. This is purification of the mind. So if we can pure our minds, if we can purify our minds, we can also practice vipassana. Then we may have purifications of many other steps. Then we can attain nibbana. So may you all be able to practice the three trainings, and may you all be able to realize final cessation and suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Dear Sayadaw, how to
Okay.
check one's concentration is access or absorption? For example, in the first to fourth jhana, and the second.
Okay. Okay.
The second question from the same person. Some say that after they experienced nibbana, they would also experience immense pity, not only during sitting, but also every moment in daily life too. Is this possible? Is there any mention on such experience in the suttas? Thank you, Sayadaw. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. So, for about the access of SSN, the jhana, right? Actually, if we cannot balance controlling faculties, so for about the asset concentration, we have already mentioned before. If we cannot balance controlling faculties, then we can be in the asset concentration. If we can balance well, we can be in the absorption concentrations. But at the moment of entering, we cannot check. We cannot check is access or absorption. Okay, so that means in every single jhana, there's asset concentrations. In every asset concentration is a little bit weak. For example, like in the mental process, Purikama, Upachara, Nuloma, Quadrabu, right? Before the jhana mind moments, there's that kind of mind moments. The sensual sphere mind moments. They are called assets. Okay. What about the PD? I think if you go and read in the Radhana Sutta, you can find many quality of noble persons. It's possible to have pity everywhere, but one more thing, when entering into Nibbana, they are not, when they are, for example, when they are entering into fruition attainment, they will not know pity. They will know only the Nibbana as objects.
If I practice Buddhanusati and I mastery and enter the, I attend asset concentration, and other time can I proceed to practice Vipassana?
Okay, so actually after practicing the Buddhanusati, after attaining asset concentrations, you also have to continue practicing 4-element meditation. After we can proceed Rupa meditation, you can also proceed Vipassana. Yeah, we have a systematic way, right? There's a system to proceed Vipassana through Buddhanusati. It's also possible. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, some teachers do not emphasize too much on checking the bhavanga and objects. Some yogis who are just able to see some light at the heart area, the teacher will allow them to proceed to check jhana factors. Could Sayadaw explain how clear must a meditator discern the bhavanga? Must he explain in detail about the bhavanga he has discerned? So that's the first question, Sayadaw.
Okay, so that means the clearer the better. Yeah, which is it, the clearer the better, right? For example, there's the base, there's also the objects in it. So first step, we have to see the bhavanga, the brightness or heart area. Second one is the nimitta in the area. Ideally, we have to understand this too. Without understanding this too, checking bhavanga is also meaningless. Okay, this is more important part. After that, number 2.
The second question is, if a meditator is unable to discern the bhavanga after checking many times, can he proceed to check jhana factors? Or is it a prerequisite that meditators must be able to discern the bhavanga first? Then he can proceed to check the jhana factors.
Okay, now in the text I have already mentioned, right? So first we have to know base and object first. After that, we have to see the jhana factors according to Venerable Sariputta's practice, right? Even Venerable Sariputta has to do like this. We ordinary people have to do the same, right? So it will be, it's compulsory, we have to do it. Without that, if we check, it doesn't mean you cannot know jhana factors, but not systematic. Okay, next one.
The third question by the same person. Some meditators have much difficulties discerning the bhavanga. What could be some of the possible reasons?
Okay, sometimes they will use too much mind power to see it. That means mind is not very stable. Another thing is after emerging from the jhana, check bhavanga. So if we spend very long time to checking bhavanga, it's not really very good, also not very comfortable. Anyway, so the main thing is it must be very short moments to check. After that, there must be stability of the mind. Mind must be calm and stable. If the mind is not very stable, we cannot see it. So there are some special reasons. Okay, here in this case, mind is unstable. We cannot see it. Make mind stable. Second one is immediately after emerging, check it. Don't waste time. Another thing is don't spend very long time in checking. If you spend very long time, excitement cannot check. Okay. Next one.
Fourth question. Dear Sayadaw, sometimes during my practice, I am not yet satisfied with my progress for a long time. But my teacher is satisfied and he instructed me to proceed. Because of this, I may arise many doubt or have lower confidence and not very sure that I'm doing okay. How should I do? What should I do if I have such situation? Should I listen to my teacher and proceed, or should I report my conditions to my teacher? Sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. In this case, I just recommend you to report your situation to your teacher. It will be more convenient for you, right? Okay, next one.
The fifth question, dear Venerable Sayadaw, regarding the masteries, how long should we be able to stay in the first jhana before entering the second? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, in this case, the longer the better. Okay, so at least 2 hours, 3 hours. If you can do more than 3 hours, much better. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, if a meditator's mind is often inclined to upekkha, will there be difficulties for him to attain first jhana as he has not much happiness or not really inclined on piti mind? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Actually, our mind must not incline to upekkha or piti or anything. So our mind must incline to nimitta or anapana, right? So that means when you have jhana, there will be piti, there will be rapture. Whether you like or dislike, incline or not incline, is natural. So we have to accept natural things. After that, we can attain the first jhana. Okay.
Vandami Sayadaw, no sound, can't hear clearly. When Sayadaw explained commentary on Anupada Sutta summary, can Sayadaw explain in more detail how Viriya and Sati cover other faculties and Cetasikas?
Okay. So yeah, the question is mindfulness, right? Oh, Viriya, sorry. Viriya cover. Okay. So Viriya and they are mentioned. Okay. In this case, we just talk about Viriya covers 2 faculties, faith and wisdom. Okay, 2 controlling faculties. So that means when we have stronger Viriya, we may have stronger faith, stronger wisdom. So faith and wisdom also can support stronger Viriya like that. That is why, because they are the same as controlling faculties, they will arise together. They can support each other. If we cannot balance well, we cannot maintain jhana. That's why Viriya cover 2 more controlling faculties, because sati is there already, right? So similarly, sati will covers non-greed, non-hatred, and 6 pairs of mental fetters. And this are 6 pairs of mental fetters, right? So that means they associate with all the wholesome mental wholesome mental quality. They will arise together. That's why there also I mentioned Lakkhana Hara Niti. According to Kodaga Nikaya, we have one of the booklets called Niti and Pitaka Padesa. Right? This is one of the booklets from Kodaga Nikaya. There's Lakkhana Hara Niti. We call the characteristics of mental fetters. So that means if one mental fetter arises, all other associated mental fetters will arise because they are same as mental fetters. This is called Lakkhana Niti. Okay. Without associated mental fetters, mindfulness alone cannot arise. Viriya alone cannot arise. That's why they will arise together. Okay, next one.
How to purify mana, conceit?
Okay, so in the case of mana, actually there are many ways, right? For example, okay, when we are proud of ourselves, there are many people better than us. They're trying to see them. We have many weaknesses. We have to see our weakness, then we can subside mana. Okay, so if we know we have many weaknesses, we don't have mana. If we think about our own quality too much, we may have mana. So that one is the easier way to overcome mana. Okay, next one.
Janupeka. This upeka is Tatramajatata, right?
Yeah.
This sati means the satindriya in the 5 faculties. And here upeka and sati 是说具足舍以念而说舍念的诸是吗？ Yes, that means in the jhana, it's with upeka, with this Tatramajatata as upeka and sati, and stay is in sukha. Is that right? This understanding?
Okay. So
I reword it again, Sayadaw. In the jhana, janupeka means the upeka means the Tatramajatata, right? And then the sati is satindriya in the 5 faculties.
Yeah.
So with this upeka and sati, then stay happily. So this is the jhana, right?
Yeah, sure. They will rise together, sure. Okay. Next one.
Kaya pasati. Does that mean the rupa kaya pasati or the cetasika pasati? And second, and how to differentiate the kaya, rupa kaya pasati and the cetasika pasati?
Actually, when we talk about kaya pasati, citta pasati, there are some controversy about it. For example, kaya pasati means the mental body, then means cetasika, the tranquility of all other associated cetasikas. Citta pasati means tranquility of mind, citta consciousness. Then it also mentioned because of this tranquility of the mind, we also can feel tranquility in our body because of practical experience, calm and quiet minds, right? So that's why there are some controversy about the kaya pasati, citta pasati. Anyway, they will arise in jhana, sure. Then next one.
Why is that for certain people, bhavanga mind is very bright. Some of them are not bright. Why is that so? Is that related to the objects of the Maranasana Javana in the past life?
Okay,
this is the first question.
Okay, in this case, it depends on our mental quality in the present moment, right? So if our mind becomes very bright, it will be very bright, not because of past karma. Next one.
Dear Venerable,
just now, not yet finished, sorry. There are 3 questions in the slide just now. Second question, Maranasana Javana, the object. If the object, if the objects for the past life marana sana javana is the nimitta, so in the future life, would the bhavanga mind door become very bright? And that question, if the marana sana javana is a wisdom associated, jnana associated, and the panindriya will be very strong. So in their future life, would the bhavanga mind become brighter?
So, okay, now I have already answered for all three questions, right? Not because of past karma, it's because of present purity of mind. When your mind becomes very pure and bright, sure, then it will be brighter. Of course, there we also have some past causes, but we need more present causes in samatha. You know, in the case of samatha, don't think about past karma too much. It must be present karma. Okay. Next one.
Dear Venerable Sayadaw, how much can charita, sila, and dana, and similar punya kriya be beneficial for those trying to meditate?
So that means sila morality, right? Dana and also punya kriya. Okay.
Punya kriya.
Okay, so that means actually when we are doing wholesome things, it makes our mind calm and happy. So later, for example, dana, right? So from time to time, our mind is not very happy. Then we can recall it. The time of dana, we experience happiness. So that means there are many experiences in our life when we are doing dana, we are happy. We can recall all the experiences. Now, when we can feel happiness, more delighted minds, more pleasant minds, then we can start meditating. So that means sometimes we don't have any confidence, or when we don't have any piti, especially rapture or joy, then we can recall dana, we can recall sila, we can recall the punya kriya, in order that we may be able to enjoy it or rejoice our dana, etc. So it will be useful for our meditation. Okay.
This is regarding mercy killing. So if the doctor gives injections to patients, okay, I make it summarize it. If a doctor gives medicines to patients for this mercy killing, and this patient died but not committing suicide because he is killed by the doctor, so would the patients fall into the woeful state? And
actually,
and this being killed by the doctor because of the injection, would they consider accidental death? And if it is accidental death, the vipaka, would they be the four woeful state, means the hell and the Petao ram? And during this mercy killing, the patient is like in the sleeping state, means in the bhavanga states, and then after that mananasana javana, then chuti. So in this case, the chuti would not have dosa mind. Can we be mindful in order to be reborn in the happy states, in the happy realm?
You have a lot of imaginary, right? So in this case, actually, we cannot say exactly what will happen to that kind of people. For example, like they have a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, right? Then like unconscious, as you say now, sleeping, we cannot say dosa arise or not, because in the Bhavanga states, like sleeping, when we were sleeping, we cannot know what's his dream. Like sleeping, right? So maybe all the past objects can arise anytime. So that means because of mercy killing, we cannot say what will happen. It's also not sure, as you say, right? It's not sure. It depends on near-death moment objects. That's why that kind of thing is a little bit strange. So anyway, committing suicide or mass killing, this is not recommended by the Buddha. Okay? This is not good things to do. Okay, next one.
尊敬的西阿多，
And let me see,
正
no?
念的想投生上去为前提，而一直进
With
行
the
长期入定或断食直至死亡，一直入定或修佛所念杀的正念断食基本都是善心，是否算自杀？会投生上去吗？
If 有正念的想投身上去 so with this mindfulness and intentions to be reborn in the happy realm, and then he entered into jhana for a long time without eating, then he passed away. So that, for example, he entered into jhana or buddhanusati, etc., until he died without eating. So this way of mindfully stop eating is a kusala mind. So would they consider suicide? Would he be reborn in the happy realm? And
there is a similar question. Last we also asked the same question, right? Anyway, okay, no, can you use what's the question?
And for suicide, if the way of suicide is different, the karma and the vipaka, would they be the same? For example, jumping down from the building or by hanging himself to die, would the vipaka be the same? Continuous stop eating, fasting, but he still maintain mindfulness and practice meditation until death. Would they consider what would be the vipaka?
Okay, so the Buddha didn't recommend that kind of practice. We can say easier way, right? Like even the fasting, you may have read many suttas. In the sutta appointment, like nobody accepted practice. They may eat maybe once a week, sometimes like maybe like every alternative day they will eat, once a week they will eat, something like that. They also have that kind of practice at the time of the Buddha. This is nobody accepted practice. Then what about purposely stop eating? That's also, we're gonna say mindfully dying, right? We don't not mindfully like no, we're gonna say like mindful or not, it's not very sure. So if we are hungry, we're gonna say this is comfortable. So that means whatever way we make ourselves weak and pass away, we can consider as a suicide according to Buddha's teaching. That's not really allowable, not allowed by the Buddha, not recommended by the Buddha. Whatever way, right? That means, what about future life? It depends on his near-death moment object. We cannot say exactly. The same vibhaka, it depends on how strong his mind. Sometimes, for example, like in this case, we can say like a wrong view, right? Entering into jhana without eating. Even the Buddha said 7 days for Arhat and Anagami to enter into the cessation attainment. Not more than that. That is why that kind of thing is not really very good things to do. Another thing is, it depends on how strong his mind, how strong his wrong view. According to the wrong view, it will be heavy. Wrong view is also a kind of akusala mind, right? Because of holding wrong view, this is also akusala. The stronger akusala mind, then the stronger karma he has already accumulated. It depends on all these situations. He will be reborn in the future existences. Okay, next one.
For Chetana Cetasika, it is explained as intention. It will lead all the Cetasika towards the object. So may Sayadaw please explain about this Chetana Cetasika. So this is the first part of the question.
Okay. So when we talk about Chetana, actually we just talk about Chetana as volition. They also mention like, okay, we have one simile about that Cetasika. especially about encouraging other people or supporting other people. That means he may have two duties to perform. So he may perform his own duties. He may also ask other associated benefactors, force other associated benefactors to work properly. The simile is there, like one of the chief of carpenters. We are the chief student of a carpenters. So he has to do two things. He also has to work for himself, his duties. He has to perform his duties. He also has to take care of his younger assistants. This is called Chirana. So we can say Chirana has the two responsibilities, right? For oneself and for others. Now we can also say another way, Chirana is also willingness or eagerness. So another thing is the Chirana determines ethical quality or strong and weak karmic force. When we have very strong Chirana, there will be strong karma. When we have very weak Chirana, there will be weak karma. This it will decides, it will determines. But that's why Buddha also say, Chirana ham bhikkhawe karma vadami. Bhikkhus, I say Chirana as a karma.
师尊说
Right?
施即是业。
Okay, so next one.
Second part of question. For Adhimokkha Cetasika,
Mm-hmm.
it is a determination. So
Yeah.
if someone, he has hesitations, a lot of hesitation in doing things, so could it be understood as the Adhimokkha Cetasika is not powerful or not enough? That's why he has hesitation.
Okay, so in here in the Adhimokkha, I have Adhimokkha Cetasika and Saddha. You have to understand two different things. So when we talk about Adhimokkha, although we say decision, right? There are some controversy about it, especially Lady Seattle. Lady Seattle said, Adhimokkha is not really decision, just like making mind free to decide or to choose the objects. So that means although good and bad, it will choose, make mind free, right? This is called freedom of the thoughts. So that means the mind will not waver, not weaving between two objects, right? So this is one thing. What about the decisions? We have Saddha, Adhimokkha, we have another Pali word. So many of the decisions come from Saddha, confidence or belief. That one is stronger. In the case of hesitations, that means no confidence. No Saddha, Adhimokkha, we can understand like that. Okay, next one.
Vandami Seattle, first part of the question, if someone disagree or refuse Abhidhamma, commentary, sub-commentary, and so on, without any hiri or tappa. No, I mean if someone refuses this, disagree with Abhidhamma, commentary and sub-commentary, can we understand that this type of persons is without hiri or tappa and have mana and dichi?
Of course, we can say like they have a wrong view, sure. Right? That means if they, for example, like without commentary, we cannot understand the Pali. There are many Pali suttas we cannot understand clearly. So it's also helpful. Then even commentator himself also the conflicts or admitted that there are some error, some mistakes in the we call Pamada Lekha in the commentary. He also mentioned he himself admits something like that. Anyway, there will be some mistake in the commentary, but anyway, it's useful for learning Pali Canon. Okay, next one.
Second part of question, for Sukha Vipassana Jnanika, they don't have jhana. Would they cannot, so when they try to discern Nama Rupa, would they be unclear? So if, and to discern Nama Rupa, it is wisdom. So if, and this would, wisdom, would there be any relationship with jhana? So if Nama Rupa is not clear, would there, if Nama Rupa is not clear, and this meditator attain Magga Phala, would they be able to would they not be able to discern their kilesa that have been destroyed?
Actually, this is a okay. Basically, we have this kind of statements. That means without attaining jhana or after attaining jhana, when we can attain path and fruition knowledge, that we reviewing knowledge. So there are 5 reviewing. Right? Magga, phala, nibbana, kilesa, kilesa means remaining kilesa, and also removing kilesa, eradicating kilesa. So that means sometimes they review kilesa, sometimes they cannot review kilesa. It depends. So that means if we purposely review, we must be able to review it. Right? So if they rise naturally, sometimes they review, sometimes they will not review. It depends. Okay, next one.
That part of the question. In Pali, mutta includes Kana Vinyana, Jiva Vinyana, and Kaya Vinyana. Vitakka or Sanya. Is that correct? Mutta.
Sure. Mutta, sure. Mutta means
past participle of Manyati.
Sure. So mutta means that means Dita Sutta Mutta Vinyata like that, right? Dita Sutta Mutta Vinyata. Mostly we use like this. If we say mutta, it can be tando, also body do, and mind do. Sorry, tando and body do, sorry. Dita Sutta, sorry, no. Dita Sutta, yeah. So the nose do, tando, and body do. This is called mutta, okay?
Mutta includes Vitakka and Sanya.
Mutta, Vitakka and Sanya.
Because mutta, he says, is a past participle of Manyati. Was that correct?
Sure, we can say. We cannot say past participle like a jera also.
So mutta, would it include Vitakka and Sanya or not? Yeah, this is the question.
No, mutta is okay. Let me. In this case, mutta we're going to talk about mutta is according to the sutta, right? This is not according to Abhidhamma. When we talk about mutta, it will be we can recognize something from our nose, tongue, and body. This is called mutta. Okay. We're going to say sanya and vitakka. We're going to say sanya or vitakka. Next one.
And in the Patisambhidamagga, it mentioned about Anapanasati.
Yeah.
This one has been answered last week. Means the sign in breath and out breath, they are not the same object. If one does not know about these 3, it will not get benefit from a meditation.
Sure.
Yeah, this statement. So the question is in Patisambhidamagga, this sign means the touching point. So the question is, Anapanasati, the object is focused onto the object should be the breath on the touching point, but not the touching point. So why this statement says that have the touching point as one of the objects to be known, and this touching point, the sign, the in breath and out breath, these 3, if they choose说的目的these 3, does that means only the in breath and out breath? It is not necessary the in breath and out breath on the touching point, or in breath and out breath that pass through the touching point.
Actually,
or just focus onto the 只是在点出专注 or just emphasize on just try this statement just try to point out the place for focusing. What statement is correct means
okay. Actually, I have already answered last week, right? So you can know one of the 3, in breath, out breath, or touching. Without knowing one of the 3, you cannot be successful. This is the main point. So later, actually, when we talk about impurity of anapanas, it will explain very much in detail about your question. If we emphasize focus on touching too much, we will get lost for the breathing, especially in breath or out breath, something like that. So our mind must be harmonious with the breath, in breath and out breath, or touching point. If we cannot harmoniously focus on it, we cannot be successful. This is the main point in this question. The statement in which Patisambhidamagga. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, a meditator entered white Kasina jhana before, but now there are still some sittings, the nimitta of white Kasina not appear or not stable. Sometimes it can disappear. What should the meditator do? No other meditation method has been practiced.
Actually, when you have experienced very good things in the past, you may expect good quality again and again. So that means don't expect all your previous experiences. If you expect all the good experience in the past, your mind is unstable. You cannot maintain well. You have to restart as a new meditator. Then you can regain your concentrations. Okay, next one.
The same from the same question. For Kasina, how do we know we have entered jhana or not? If the meditator is not sure about vitakka and vichara after emerging from second jhana, what would the meditator do? What should the meditator do?
Actually, when we can know only the nimitta, we are in the jhana, right? Another thing is before we enter, we have already make some determination. I will enter the first jhana for this hour, something like that. Before we practice second jhana, we have already determined, already reviewed the weakness of jhana fetters. Also, we have more intention to enter into the second jhana, something like that. According to our mind power, we can experience. So in your second question, you mentioned, right? So second, let me meditator is not sure, right, about vitakka vichara, right? Okay, anyway, that means as long as there's a vitakka vichara, if you can review vitakka vichara after emerging from second jhana, then you are not in the second jhana anymore. You have to re-enter into the first jhana, then systematically you have to re-enter into the second jhana also. After emerging from it, you can review the jhana fetters. So just reviewing. We don't have any other exceptions. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, whenever I check my heart base, the light is very bright there, and I am unable to discern the bhavanga and object. How can I overcome this stage?
So, okay, you can see the bhavanga mind states, but don't spend very long time checking it. If you spend very long time checking very long time like this, you cannot see clearly. This is one thing. Another thing is checking objects, nimitta in the bhavanga. So you must see two things together. So nimitta is on the objects, bhavanga is the base, right? So that means in the bhavanga, you can see nimitta. So two different things. You have to understand these two different things. Nimitta in the bhavanga, right? If you can see clearly, you can continue your practice. So the more important thing is you must make your mind calm and quiet. Also, you must check immediately after emerging from the jhana. Otherwise, you're gonna check clearly. And this one.
顶你了，文达米西亚的，请问上网观看分享收宠物或令感动的宠物，或者是为了健康关保。文达米 ，This is a Vinaya question. If from the internet, is share in the internet sharing the video about these pets and very attractive animals, the documentaries about attractive animals and pets, or some about bodybuilding or athletics video, means sports video, would that commit the offense of this Kitana Watita Visukkadasana? So for monks and layperson, would there be any difference in this Vinaya?
Okay. So for bhikkhu shah, we should be strict. Huh? If you don't share that kind of things, it will be more beneficial for devotee also. For lay devotees, actually, as long as they don't go and see Babasi, it doesn't matter, right? Sometimes, okay, sharing is a little bit the problem, sure. Sharing is the problem. So that means, it's, for example, for sense of urgency, you may share, right? You may have some captions on it for sense of urgency, for Dhamma purpose, okay, you can share it. Then, without that, then don't share too much. This is also not really very good for foreign persons or for lay persons. Don't make yourself busy doing many useless things. Next one.
Vandami Siado, after practicing Anapanasati for 45 minutes, my leg became numb and painful. It kept happening like this for a few years. I am 37 years old and have normal health conditions, which means I am not sick. Can Bhante give some suggestions to counter this challenge and develop concentration? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So that means it depends on your sitting posture or many other things. You have to check what kind of sitting posture you have, right? You can sit comfortably. This is one thing. Another one is your concentration quality, and also rapture or joint. If you have very strong rapture, joint or tranquility, then 45 minutes is really very short. You can sit longer than that. Another thing is using energy. Sometimes if you use too much mind power, you can feel pain within a few minutes. Or you can feel exhausted within a few minutes. So save energy. Just try to have more tranquility and a rapture or joy. You can sit longer. Otherwise, you will remain in the same stage. If you have too much like a laziness or distraction, you can do like a Bodhanussati, recollection of charity to make your mind happy and peaceful. Then when you can feel peacefulness, you can continue sitting. It will be easier for you to maintain longer. Okay, next one.
Vanami said all. So Sedo said that the Patavi Kasina is very important to attend the jhana. But if I feel more comfortable with Nila Kasina and I practice systematically from Parikama Nimitta and up to Parimagga Nimitta, and I also attend Upachaya Samadhi. Is that correct, Sedo? It means he can proceed directly from Nila Kasina up to the Upachaya Samadhi.
Okay, it's possible. So any Kasina is possible to Upachara Samadhi or Apana Samadhi is possible. You can start with any Kasina, is okay. Yeah? Next one.
Venerable Siado, I apologize if this is not relevant. In Mahabhuddha Win English version, one of the Mahapurisa Lakkhana is said to be produced by the Bodhisattva. Herein, his meritorious performance of bringing about unity among relatives in the numerous past existence was, number one, karma. When kinsmen are united, one overlooks another's fault. Even when they are at quarrel, they do not let other know of the wrong done by a man of their blood. If one were to say, this is his fault, they would rise up and refute. Who has seen that? Who has heard that? There is nobody among us who would have done such a misdeed. In this way, they all would give cover to this fault, to his fault. It may be said that the Bodhisattva had disregarded such fault and thereby brought about unity to his kin and kin. How can we overlook the fault of others in a wholesome way? we are supposed to admonish when others are wrong, but then how can we overlook others' faults? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, so this is a come from Mahabodha Wansa. Okay, so that means Mahabodha Wansa, right? So, okay. So Mahabodha Wansa, that means, okay, that means if we have very strong patience, it will be possible. Overlook means sometimes we consider like forgiving, right? Forgiving or maybe some overcoming. Anyway, so that means we Bodhisattva may have Kanti Parami, you know, he has many Parami, Kanti Parami. Then he could do all the things. If we don't have a Kanti Parami, we cannot do it. So in this case, we can understand, you can also review all the Parami, perfections. You can understand why he has this kind of quality. Okay? Next one.
Vanamisiado, in Lady Siado, Vipassana Dipani, in Lady Siado, Vipassana Dipani, it's mentioned that Lobha is the most fearful things. It is the biggest dukkha. But in Visuddhimagga, why it says that Lobha Charita is the kusala 因苏斯的美好努力和多做敬业，从天上时候。Why is that in Visuddhimagga the Lobha Charita, Raga Charita is because of the past life, Virya, and Kusala Karma. Then they reborn in this life from after their death in the Deva realm. Means a contradiction between Lady Siaso's saying in Vipassana Dipani. Raga is very fearful.
I cannot understand. Okay,
but,
I understand.
But in Visuddhimagga, it mentions the Lobha Charita, Raga Charita. It is because they are Kusala Karma they have done in past life. Then they after that, from the Deva realm, they be reborn in this life.
Okay, because of Kusala, they are born in the whole sun. Because of Kusala, they are born in the Deva realms. Not because of Lobha, they are born in Deva realms, right? This one is something and some problematic because of translation problem or something like that. I'm not sure. Okay, so I think because of Lobha, we're gonna be reborn, right? Because of Kusala Karma, we can be reborn. Okay, one more thing. Because of attachment to Deva realms, we do Kusala, we can be reborn in the Deva realms. This is the one thing. Okay, and this is maybe some mistake, maybe, right? Okay, and then another one.
Ondamisiado, in Anapanasati, when the mindfulness and concentration become more and more strong, and after entering into jhana, the jhana factors arise, and in the nimitta, because of this jhana factor, in the nimitta, he can see the kalapa, the particle become clearer and clearer in the nimitta until he cannot see the color. Would that be considered normal? And how to deal with this situation?
Actually, what about the kalapas? When your mind inclined to kalapas, it will change to kalapas. So don't pay attention to any kalapas. You have to see nimitta as a concept, not as a kalapas, right? It depends on your manasikara, your intentions. It will happen. If you don't pay attention as a kalapas, it will remain as a nimitta. So that means don't have any inclinations or any investigation about nimitta too much. Okay? Yadawadaja amehi sambadam bunya sambadam sabbe deva numodandu sabbe buddha numodandu Sabbe Saddhanu Modandu Sabba Sambati Siddhya Idam me Nyatinam Hodu Sukhita Hondu Nyadayo Idam me Nyatinam Hodu Sukhita Hondu Nyadayo Idam me Nyatinam Hodu Sukhita Hondu Nyadayo Idam me Bunyam Asawakaya Waham Hodu Idam me Bunyam Nibbanasa Pajayo Hodu Mama Bunya Bhagam Sabba Sadanam Bhajami Te Sabe Me Samam Bunya Bhagam Labandu Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu